Doo-doo. What up, what up? Tracy Taylor, good to see you. Hope everyone's ready for round 2 here. Let me make sure my audio is all set. Okay, looks like that's coming in all right. Nice, nice, nice. Turn it down maybe a little bit. Roger, good to see you. Guys, make sure to smash the like button. I think something's wrong with the just stream going out right now. Form C just came out. Of course it did. Oh, did Solana just go down too? Okay, SEC filed Form C and Solana is down. What is going on? Okay, I got Form C. Okay, so we have Form C and Solana. It looks like Solana is... What is happening with Solana right now? Is Solana down again? Guys, make sure to smash the like button. Something's up with the stream right now. Oh, the price isn't down. What's up with... Okay, I don't know what's up with that yet. Timing's impeccable. Yeah. Oh, they backdated the submission. They actually backdated the submission. They backdated the submission to October 16th. Yo, this is insane. Look at this. They put 16th on the filing, but it was filed on the 17th. That's insanity. I don't know if I've ever seen something like that. It's actually shocking behavior. Wow. Okay. Harbinger, good to see you. Guys, make sure if you're getting here early, you smash that like button. We have 25-ish minutes prior to this thing starting. Looks like we'll have something to talk about in the meantime here. So that appeal is filed. I haven't got... Let me get into the actual document to see what they're appealing. Oh my, this thing is deep. How do you even spin this up? Wow, this thing is massive. Look at this. I don't even know what any of this is, to be honest with you guys. It's like the entire Ripple is, oh my god. Is this the original filing? Okay, wow, this is huge. Pop it into ChatGPT. I'm sure someone's gonna take it. Figure out what this is. Okay, this is the civil law enforcement action. The Securities and Exchange Commission alleged that Brad Garlinghouse, Chris Larson violated the securities by offering and selling crypto asset XRP and violations. In July 23, the issue ordered on the parties cross motions for summary judgment. The court granted the commission's partial summary judgment with respect to Ripple's offers of sales of XRP to institutional investors and granted defendants partial summary judgment in respect to Ripple's offers and sales of XRP and digital asset trading platforms. Chris Larson's aiding and abetting of those offers and sales. Brad Garlinghouse's personal offers and sales XRP. October 17th, the district issued summary judgment. Oh, so this is the entire summary judgment. Okay, that's what that is. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, guys. I don't really know what I'm looking at. Eight 2024. I'm just gonna wait and see what the lawyers are saying about this. So they're just both appealing what they lost on. I don't know if the SEC's. I would like a more detailed thing because I don't know if the SEC's appealing disgorgement. Guys, make sure to take a quick second, drop a like on the stream. I think YouTube's doing something weird here where no one is being notified of the stream. So yeah, I don't know what's going on YouTube. Oh, there it goes. Now it's picking up. Now it's picking up. Oh, Meta Law Man has a summary. Okay, thank you, Roger. Let me pull that up. Okay. Oh, so they didn't go after disgorgement. Okay. So that's interesting. They're not going after disgorgement. They're going after Ripple's XRP sales through exchanges, Ripple's distribution of XRP to employees, and Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson's sales of XRP on exchanges. So it's literally just the exchange thing. Interesting. Maybe because they rushed to do it last night, they forgot. Yeah, debate hasn't started yet. Debate is in 20 minutes. We got about 700 people in here, guys. I want to get my live stream to be one of the biggest ones, especially on X. Make sure to drop this a retweet on X if you're watching from there. If you're over on YouTube, just like the stream. Really appreciate everyone doing that. Here it is, though. So guys, they didn't go after XRP itself being a security. That's another big thing. They didn't say anything about XRP being the security. That's another nice thing to see that they didn't throw in here. It is backdated. I said in my video earlier today, I don't think there's really much of a chance the judge throws it away. But it is. Look at this. I mean, this is just egregious. This is the SEC literally saying that it was filed on October 16th, but the entry is October 17th. So they literally just backdated it. That's insane. So that means we were right on the date. That absolutely means we were right on the date. That's one of the biggest things. Everyone was like, we're absolutely right on the date. That's why the SEC is backdating it. No disgorgement, which is a big surprise. Backdating is insane. So the biggest thing is no disgorgement, which is nice because the disgorgement thing was a Supreme Court issue. So I think this lowers the chance this goes to the Supreme Court because disgorgement's not on it. The SEC didn't bring up XRP being a security, so it looks like they're eating it on that. And then the last thing is the backdating. So those are the big three surprises so far. Everything else was pretty par for the course. Secondary sales pretty much. It's XRP sold on like Coinbase. It's really not a big deal. I thought they were going to try to say XRP is a security. That's the really big win here. XRP is not a security for all those people saying they could contest that. They didn't. Yeah, they didn't contest that. They absolutely did not contest that. So that's a really good sign. It shows that they're really giving up on that issue. Guys, we're up at 700 people on X. That would just be a shame if we lapped Rector. Rector was going for a bit before me. It would just be a shame if we just passed him. Not saying I want to, but he had a big head start on me and we're catching him fast. So you guys know what to do. Smash the like button. Let's run this thing up. Also, I'll probably break 60K subscribers on this stream. So a little special. Is Ripple selling to exchanges? You will, like Chris Larson and Brad Garlinghouse, if they ever want to sell XRP, they sell on an exchange. I backdate my bills, PokeJam. That's hilarious. Yeah, I wish we could all just backdate, right? So that's embarrassing. But I just don't know if embarrassing is going to be enough where like there's actually any implication here. Disgorgement not being on it is big, though. Disgorgement not being on it is big because that was like that big Second Circuit issue. Like that was like, oh, this could go to the Supreme Court level problem. So the fact that disgorgement's not on it is actually a really good sign. This is actually better than I thought. It's actually better than I thought because a lot of the key issues are being left off it. Guys, I don't know if you saw this earlier either. This is also some pretty big news. There's a lot of stuff happening right now. Turns out Ripple was minting close to 20% of the USDC in existence, which is insane. That number is insane. So that means not most, but like a large portion of USDC volume is actually just Ripple minting. Is Ripple still selling to exchanges? Yes, I think Ripple still sells XRP on exchanges. The judge said it was perfectly fine. The judge absolutely said that was perfectly fine. That's a good question, though, Roger. Is Ripple still selling on exchanges? Maybe not. I have to look into that. I think actually the answer is no, Roger. That's actually a great point. I actually don't know if Ripple still is selling on exchanges. I mean, ODL runs through exchanges. That's a tough question. I'll have to look more into that, Roger, but I appreciate you bringing that up. That's a great question. Guys, debate is in 13 minutes. Make sure to go drop a like on the stream prior to this debate. I think we're pretty close to catching for the biggest John Deaton debate live stream. We got 100 new people on X. If you're on X, you know what to do. Drop the retweet. I want to get this thing cooking prior to the debate. Oh, messy. That's hilarious. So all the people saying it was due last night or due tomorrow are wrong here. So Eleanor Tarrant just came out with a tweet. We'll cover that. The SEC has filed its Form C dealing with issues they plan to seek to appeal. Ripple's programmatic sales of XRP on digital asset trading platforms. Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson. Ripple's distribution of XRP to employees. They are not appealing disgorgement. They're not appealing the fine. They're not appealing XRP itself being a security. So those are the big wins here. Don't get me wrong either. Those are some pretty big wins to not have those. YouTube's not letting you send super chats and become a member. Something is weird with YouTube. I feel like I'm going to wake up and my YouTube account's going to be gone. There's something whack going on with my YouTube channel right now. Like normally on YouTube, like there's no members here. Like no one got informed that I went live here. I don't know why that's the case, but no one got the notification that I went live. I don't know why. Like YouTube clearly is doing something here. Normally on YouTube at this time, we would have like 400, 500 people in here. So YouTube is definitely messing with something. And especially if they're not letting people like do member stuff. Something whack is going on. I don't know why. All right, punch back at YouTube. Drop a like on the stream. Yeah, I don't know what is up with that. So weird. You stopped being informed 2 weeks ago? Yeah, I'm like quasi shadow banned. I need to put in like some kind of lawsuit to YouTube. Like that's what they do. They just do everything they can to like not give channels like mine attention. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. That's why I put up like 10,000 viewers when I live stream on X and like none on YouTube, because like YouTube literally makes it so none of my viewers can see I'm going live. So they're not appealing anything retail related. Well, sort of, because the sales on institutional or the sales on exchanges is sort of retail related, but they can't go after XRP itself. They're not going after XRP, the token. Looks like they've given up on that, which that's a pretty big win. Don't get me wrong. That is a pretty big win. Okay, so Metal Law Man thinks this is So, okay, so this is what Metal Law Man tweeted out. Apparently, this is still probable. I mean, not probable, possible. Take a look at this. Metal Law Man just tweeted out, it's weird. The SEC's Form C is dated October 16th, but the court filing is October 17th. That literally is him pointing out that the SEC missed the appeal, which is shockingly bad. And he says we should find out soon whether the Second Circuit concludes that the SEC has missed the deadline. So, I mean, that's Metal Law Man speculating that there's a chance that the SEC missed this deadline, and there could be repercussions for that. We've got to see what that ends up turning into. We've got to see what that ends up turning into because, I mean, Metal Law Man is a great attorney. The SEC was late, and there could be repercussions for that. We'll see what the SEC says. The SEC was clearly late. The SEC was clearly late, and the court could crack down on them. Guys, also, if you don't mind, just make sure you smash that like button on YouTube. Like, none of the normal people are here because I feel like no one got alerted. I should send out a post. There's like so many people who are normally here who aren't in the chat. And it's just because YouTube is trying to destroy us. So make sure you smash the like button. I'm going to see if I can push a manual alert. Crazy though. Why do I have to fight to get my shit seen on YouTube? Silver Days, good to see you. Yeah, YouTube did something whack here. I don't know what is going on, but YouTube is clearly messing with me. It seems like there is actually some kind of ability for this to get dropped. I don't think it's probable, but let me get this live stream ready. Four minutes. All right. All right, let's get ready for the big smackdown. We might have to deal with the SEC, but at least we can watch John Deaton just absolutely smoke Elizabeth Warren. You know what's cool, though? There are a ton of new people in the chat right now. There are a ton of new people, so YouTube might have not shown anyone the fact that I was live for whatever reason, but we got a lot of new people, which is cool. Next XRP ETF might be BlackRock. That would be great if BlackRock stepped in and filed one. I mean, the SEC has now essentially given up on XRP being a security, and it's even funnier that the SEC actually got caught backdating their form. So I don't know what that means. Oh, thank you so much for becoming a member. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate that. Did we pass Rector? Oh, Rector's still beating me on X. Guys, I need you to help me beat Rector. He's got 1.1. I've got 1,000. I know we can take him down on X. I know we can take him down. It's going to be the great flippening. It's going to be the great flippening. Take a second, retweet on X, like the stream. We'll pass him. No doubt about it. You guys are the best. 3 minutes till the debate. Yeah, they said it was a security. Well, we don't know, Roger, if they're actually saying that in the case. Roger. Bitnomial said that that's what they said to them. So it's not the SEC. Bitnomial sued the SEC. So we don't know if the SEC has actually tried to make that argument in court. Bitnomial saying, look, this is insane. Like, why are we going back to this idea that XRP is a security? This is what the SEC was saying on the back end. So we don't actually know if they're going to try to make that case. Guys, before this debate starts, exit out of the live chat, hit the like button, jump back in. Taylor, good to see you. Yeah, Taylor, from my understanding, it was Bitnomial, right? It was Bitnomial that filed. So Bitnomial was saying, hey, this is what the SEC was telling us. This is insane. It's hilarious that they're going after Brad and Chris again. It's absolutely hilarious they're going after Brad and Chris again. They're never going to win that. They're never going to win any of this, but... And Taylor, I don't know if Taylor, you definitely saw the backdating, but the backdating is very interesting. Is like, we're going to have to see what the Second Circuit thinks about that, because, I mean, they're caught red-handed on the backdating, which is a tough start to the case. I mean, literally just lying. Like, at least just file it late. Like, at least just, like, have the filing come in late. Like, don't backdate it. Oh, Gary Gens. Oh, that account was hilarious last night. That account was hilarious last night. Unless they filed it yesterday. No, they did. Hey, Taylor, did you not see this? Let me see if I can pull this up in the next. Yeah, this is from Meta Law Man, Taylor. I'm not sure if you saw this. It says on Court Listener. It says on Court Listener 17th, but the SEC actually has it dated down here at 16th. So it got filed on Court Listener on the 17th. It's pending on the document on the entry as the 17th, but the SEC filed the date as the 16th. Would you say, but why would the spokesperson say they were working on it this morning? They kind of admitted that it wasn't done yet. They admitted that it wasn't done yet and then said that it was filed yesterday when it was filed today. Like, what is this? No, Meta Law Man specifically called that. Okay, debate starting. Let me cue this up. All right, here we go. Debate time. Can you guys... What the heck? Yeah, guys, this isn't... This is a live stream issue. This live stream doesn't have audio. Wait, I need a new live stream. What the heck? Yo, someone pitched me a new live stream with audio. They're saying no live stream in the actual chat too. The live stream's broken on that stream. Yo, does anyone have a different stream? I need a new stream. There's no sound on the actual thing. They're literally saying that on the YouTube thing. No sound. Yeah, they're literally not broadcasting sound. Yeah, no sound. Does anyone else? No sound on Zach's either? Okay. Does he have sound? Wait, they're literally streaming this with no sound. No, it's not. It's the actual debate live stream. There's no sound. What are they doing? They just, the account just tweeted out they're working on the issue. The account just tweeted out we're working on, they literally are messing up. Hold on, I just got to go with this unless there's another. No, there's no, they're literally, the account for the live stream just said there's no sound. What do you mean you're working on the issue? The fix is in. Yo, this other one's not working either. There's no sound. None of the streams have sound. What is happening? Yo, what? Does no one have it? I don't, guys, I think like literally they don't have sound on. I have 2 streams going and there's no sound coming from either. Subtitles are good for now. I don't want you guys to have to read subtitles. C-SPAN, no sound either. Zach got it working. What stream is Zach on?
President Bill Clinton. And listen,
it's coming.
The Rec Center from the poor kids, it hit home because I live.
They messed this up bad.
To 400 to 500 are estimated from Iran, from Hezbollah, from Russia, and China. It's a national security crisis, but you also, it's a humanitarian crisis.
Okay,
no one can identify with these migrants more than me. I come from extreme poverty. I know what it's like to want a better life. But here's the issue for Senator Warren.
Sorry about that, guys.
She blames it on Donald Trump. Senator, I got news for you. You had a vote. Donald Trump did not, and you voted no. And now Senator Warren is saying, oh, I'll look at another immigration reform bill. Vice President Harris said she will bring back the same exact bill, and Senator Warren still won't vote for it because she's not here enough to know the damage it's doing to this state.
Coming back to you, Senator Warren, a quick follow-up. I just want to note that a recent Suffolk University and Boston Globe poll showed that more than a fifth of likely voters here in Massachusetts do blame Congress for the state's emergency shelter system being put under strain. They also say they blame Congress for now the state being on track to spend more than $1 billion this fiscal year. I understand that the bill was a sinking ship, but If it had come down to your vote, would you have been for or against it?
That's the point. It didn't come down to my vote. Because here's the deal. The Republicans sunk the comprehensive immigration reform back in 2013. The bill that was led by Marco Rubio, Republican, I voted for that bill, and we got enough people together to do comprehensive immigration reform. And what happened? It went over to the House, and extremist Republicans said, no, we want to keep this as an election issue. It's exactly what Donald Trump did in 2016, 2018, 2020, 2022, and 2024. Yes, we need comprehensive immigration reform, but we need to negotiate a bill that actually gives that to us and that doesn't let extremist Republicans continue to block actually making change in this area. Look, Mr. Deaton wants to talk about drug cartels. He wants to talk about Iran terrorists. But what he doesn't want to talk about is one way that we could actually help cabin that some, and that is to put rules in place on crypto that are actually used by the drug traffickers, the terrorists, and Iran.
Senator,
all of the bad guys.
Mr. Deaton,
I hope I get the same amount of time. Listen, you know, to the voters out there, Senator Warren in the last two debates is talking about 2013 and Marco Rubio, and she voted for some bill a decade ago. Senator, the voters need a senator today. They don't need a senator reminiscing about some vote that didn't actually happen and get passed in 2013. So listen, the bottom line for everybody out there is Senator Warren has the same exact position as Donald Trump. Do nothing. And here's what I want the voters to know, that the bill was not perfect. I can assure you that. I'd like to see more. I want to see legal immigration expanded more and then have a zero tolerance for illegal immigration. But Senator Warren is so extreme, she objects to President Biden placing a $2,500 per cap per day. She doesn't want that. She supports open borders because she doesn't know our airports, our train stations, our ERs, our urgent cares, everything's being maxed and stressed out. And Senator Warren's not here enough to know that. She should answer the question now. If Vice President Harris said she's going to bring back the same exact bill, Senator, will you vote for it?
Look, if it's the same exact bill, then I'll certainly take a hard look at it, especially if it's not already dead. But understand this, when a bill is already dead, part of what you do when you vote is you're signaling where you want to go on the negotiations. I made clear in every speech I gave, in every time I talked about this, that it is not enough to do half of it. We also need, if we're going to do this, to do it right, we need full reimbursement for what the states are spending, and we need to make sure we have a pathway to citizenship. If you're going to negotiate for that, then you got to be in there willing to negotiate.
Senator Warren, that's time. Mr. Deaton, we have a lot to get to.
No, I know, but let me just add.
We're going to move along. We have a lot to get to.
We do have to, forgive me, Mr. Deaton, the next question heads to you. You suggested, this is something you want to talk about, I know, from the last debate. In the last debate with Senator Warren, you suggested that the aid that the United States has provided in connection with the war in Ukraine, nearly $200 billion, would have been better spent on domestic priorities. But if we had gone that route, wouldn't it have guaranteed that Russia would have taken over Ukraine? And wouldn't it have put a number of countries in Eastern Europe, many of which are our allies, at grave risk moving forward?
To the voters out there, Ukraine war is the single biggest issue in this election, period. One mistake and we're at World War III. Listen, I was in the Marine Corps for 7 years. I taught generals and admirals at the Naval War College. And as a military trained officer, I can't tell you what our plan is in Ukraine because I don't think we have a plan. One day they tell us no American-made missile will land in Russia. The next week they tell us that might happen. Vladimir Putin says if it does happen, then it's war and nuclear options are on the table. This is frightening. We spent $200 billion and it's a stalemate at best. And many people believe that Russia is winning, and you can see it on Zelensky's face when he's here begging for more money. Look, my vote will have to be earned like any other vote. And of course, I favor democracy, but we got to know what the plan is. And to the warmongers in Washington saying Ukraine's going to win is a plan. That's not a plan. That's a hope. That's a wish. $200 billion, we would have had universal pre-K for the country for 10 years and $50 billion left off. We could have spent Medicaid money and expanded Medicaid in the states that didn't adopt it, giving millions of more people health insurance for 20 years. Okay, you know, it's been 30 years since Tupac said it, but I'm going to say it now. They got money for war, but can't feed the poor.
Senator Warren, you have 90 seconds.
So keep in mind that what Mr. Deaton has already said is that he would not fund Ukraine. Look, I sit on the Senate Armed Services Committee. I have been to Ukraine. I have met more than once with President Zelensky. The Ukrainians are fighting the frontline war for democracy. Anyone who thinks that we can turn just our backs on Ukraine and that Vladimir Putin won't take the whole country, and after he takes that country, take another and another and another, is just kidding themselves. I want to give real credit here actually to Joe Biden, because he's somebody who pulled together all of the nations of Europe to say we are going to support Ukraine, because we understand that if Putin takes Ukraine, he's coming for Poland, he's coming for Estonia, he is coming for the other nations in Europe. We are a partner for Ukraine as they fight for democracy. And I think that's powerfully important. You know, this is the question we have to ask ourselves is, why are these handful of Republicans who've turned their backs on Ukraine? And the answer is because Donald Trump is still angry with Ukraine, because Ukraine wouldn't help him try to dig up dirt on Joe Biden back when Donald Trump was president. Remember that originally the Republicans were all in for Ukraine, and then this extremist group broke off and said, no, 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 Donald Trump doesn't like it, so they want to turn their backs on a nation that's an ally.
We have to leave it there with you at the moment, but Mr. Deaton, just to be clear, if you were elected to the Senate, would you be a no vote on any future considerations of aid for Ukraine?
No, I didn't say that. I said my vote has to be earned. Her vote is taken for granted. I want to know what the plan is, just so the American people know this. In the first month of the invasion, Vladimir Putin was willing to back out, go back to Russia, as long as Zelensky agreed that Ukraine would not enter NATO. Why was that deal turned down? Why was it turned down? Now, I don't have the briefings that Senator Warren's getting, but I want to know what the plan is. All I'm saying is the American people deserve to know what the plan is. And just coming back every 6 months and giving billions and billions and billions of dollars when people can't pay their rent. I just want to know the plan, and no one is articulating the plan. The American people deserve transparency. For 50 plus years, it wasn't in America's vital interest for Ukraine to be in NATO. Why is it so important today? I want that answer. Maybe the senator can share with us why it is so vital in America's interest that we need that Ukraine needs to be a member of NATO.
30 seconds for the last word on this.
So let's be clear. Mr. Deaton has already been quoted in the press saying that he will not support funding for Ukraine.
That's not true.
Well, that's what the press has said.
Well,
but
find it now.
He says he wants to know the plan, then we'll make the plan clear. And that is, we are going to push back and fight back against Vladimir Putin's invasion of a neighbor. This is a violation of international law. And if Mr. Deaton wants to be an appeaser, then he can take that label. But we stand up and fight back for the boundaries that exist, and we do not support Vladimir Putin taking over Ukraine.
We have to move on to the next question.
We're going to move on to a different topic, and one that's of local importance here in Western Massachusetts. A long talked about issue here is east-west or west-east rail, expanded passenger rail service between Boston and the western part of the state. Some people say this would provide not just transportation options, but also could unlock jobs and housing opportunities as well. Senator, I'll start with you first for the next 90 seconds. If you're reelected, what will you do to help make this a reality?
So I am all in on East-West Rail. I think it will fundamentally transform not just the economy in Western Mass, but for every part of Massachusetts. Look, I'll tell you what it's going to take to get it done. I work with Richie Neal on this, and we are now laying the foundation for this. We've been working on this for years. But here's the problem. Republicans have blocked doing a really big infrastructure bill. And the kind of money we're going to need for East-West Rail to get it right and make it work is going to take a significant investment. Remember when Donald Trump was president, how Infrastructure Week was the punchline to a joke on late night television? And that was because you couldn't get the Republicans to come along and actually build up the kind of infrastructure we need. We've had underinvestment in infrastructure for years. Finally, in the 2 years that that Joe Biden was president and Democrats had control of both the House and the Senate, we got the biggest infrastructure package in history actually passed through. And that means we have started the money for building out the plans for East-West Rail. I know that Richie Neal is committed to this. I am committed to this. We know the governor is committed to this. We're going to get the money together, and we will get this done.
Mr. Deaton, you have 90 seconds to respond.
To the voter, during this debate and last debate, every time Elizabeth Warren speaks in her sentence, there's three things. There's a verb, there's a noun, and then there's Trump in it. And you're going to see that repeatedly. But on this specific issue, obviously, I believe this is very critical for Western Mass. And this is what it could do for the entire state, right? We have such a housing problem in Massachusetts. In Greater Boston, it's $980,000 for the median home price. If you go statewide, it's $650,000. That's $200,000 more than the national average. So people are being priced out of the economy. In this state, we are now the second most expensive state to live in for working families. And I see incorporating Western Mass is a way to alleviate that. So yes, obviously it's going to come down to funding, but Senator Warren and I certainly can agree that we need to invest in Western Mass. Also, alternative energy, it's screaming here in Western Mass to be a part of the alternative energy, renewable energies, wind, solar, even a very small limited nuclear here in Western Mass. We could get hydro from Canada, maybe even go over the Berkshires and get it here. And that would create jobs, and it would help the economy. So I'm all for it. We've got to do it. It would alleviate all kinds of issues, not just for Western Mass, but for the entire state.
Senator, you have 1 minute.
So I am glad to hear Mr. Deaton endorse East-West Rail. In fact, I want to hear everybody in Massachusetts endorse East-West Rail. And that's why I'm in the fight alongside Richie Neal to make sure we get all of our colleagues in Washington to sign off on this so we can actually get the funding for it. And part of the way we get that funding is when Democrats can stay in the majority in the Senate and in the House in order to get this done. But I want to hit something else that Mr. Deaton raised, and that is housing prices. Absolutely right. Housing prices are out of control. We've been sitting around for 40 years talking about how housing prices keep going up and up and up, and it has truly reached crisis proportions. It is time for the federal government to make an investment and to partner up. And that's why I have mayors all around Western Mass, including in Pittsfield, saying, I want to be part of that. The Warren plan is a plan to build more housing and bring down costs. Mr. Deaton's plan is to say, let the private market fix it, like it's fixed it for the last 40 years.
Mr. Deaton, you have the final 30 seconds on this one.
Yeah, listen, the fundamental difference between Senator Warren and I is she believes that the government is the solution to all problems of society. And she believes that every issue, I'm surprised she didn't say, oh, we're going to fund it by tax the wealthy, because every single thing she says, climate change, housing, education, every issue is tax the wealthy, right? And she didn't say that, and I'm curious, but listen, the bottom line is the government is the problem most of the time. Builders are taking 2 years just to get building permits. We got to cut the red tape
Mr. Deaton,
and tax credits for those builders.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to the issue of public trust. And Mr. Deaton, this is for you. Because you haven't held elected office, we don't know much of your record. What we do know comes mostly from your book and the stories that you've shared publicly. One of them is regarding an incident involving one of your siblings where you misled law enforcement knowing that you wouldn't be called to testify against her as a Marine Corps prosecutor living in a different state. In your book, you said, quote, "Although I lied to the cops, I wasn't under oath and I would never testify against my sister for something she didn't do." My question is, what should the public make of your willingness to break rules and in this specific case, lie to law enforcement? Why should people trust you?
Well, listen, I would encourage all those voters to read my book, and they would learn that I come from extreme poverty, a single mother on welfare and food stamps, living in one of the single worst dangerous neighborhoods in America. My mother was stabbed when I was 6 in front of me. For 2 years, I was raped by a predator in the neighborhood. At 17, my best friend died in my arms from a drive-by shooting. And the first day of high school, I had a gun shoved in my mouth. So I was a high school dropout. And I got lucky. A principal of a tiny Catholic high school gave me a chance. And quite frankly, it saved my life. And he made me earn it, and I worked my way through high school, and then at college, and then law school here in Boston. And the Marine Corps chose me over all the other law schools to represent the Commonwealth. And for 27 years of active duty, and for 22 years, I've been representing working families. Senator Warren represents bankers. I represent plumbers, going against the biggest corporations in the world. And I've done it for cancer victims. I am a small business owner. I am a proud father of 3 daughters, and I am the American dream. And when you look at the Senate, you don't see someone like that. You don't see someone who's overcome poverty, someone who knows what the daily struggles of everyday people are. I do, and I think it's time we send someone like that to the Senate. My sister was OD'd twice. She was flatlined twice. I had a decision. Do I save my sister's life? And I chose that decision to save her life. And my sister texted me that I saved her life. "Tina, how are you? I know you're watching." She texted me, "John, I'm proud of you. You did a good job in the first debate. I'm the American dream. I know what it's like to struggle, and I will work for everyone that's watching this right now. I will dedicate my life to make your life better."
Mr. Deaton, that's time. Senator Warren, you have 90 seconds.
I think this is a question of trust, and I'm glad you asked that question. You know, when John Deaton was arrested for assault at a kids' football game, the arresting officer came up and John Deaton told him to back off because he, John Deaton, knew all the judges. And when the officer decided that he was going to go ahead, put him in the car, take him downtown and book him, John Deaton told the officer that he makes so much money that he paid more in taxes every year than the police officer earned in his annual salary. I think there's a fundamental question here about who you can trust. And I think you can't trust someone like John Deaton with power. I appreciate that John Deaton grew up in a really poor family and under really difficult circumstances. And I have some sense of what it's like to listen to your mother cry because she can't pay the bills and worried you're going to lose your housing. But the question is, what do you take away from that? For me, I'll tell you exactly what I take away from it. I've spent my whole life fighting for working families. John Deaton, I think we know the story. He takes care of himself first. Take a look at his tax returns. Worth what? Tens of millions of dollars, maybe $100 million. And he couldn't find more than $56 to give to charity across 2 years. There really is a question of who you trust to fight for your family or to fight for themselves. People of Massachusetts know me. They know I'm fighting for them.
Mr. Deaton, I want to give you a chance to respond, but I also want to remind you the question is, why should the public trust you?
The public should trust me. The same thing Vice President Harris said last night when she was interviewed, her life experience and my life experience. Listen, I'm an open book. I wrote a book and I explained all the problems, and I'm not going to get into that. I will tell you this, that the police just endorsed me after reading my book that Senator Warren referenced. I went before them and were questioned, and they agreed with me because the police had an arrest incentive program where they were arresting people based on the number of arrests. You were getting time off and you were getting money, and I sued them and I stopped that, and that practice ended. But here's the thing, Senator Warren, instead of looking at my life and saying, wow, That's a good example of someone who came from dirt poverty, who was raped as a child for 2 years, who saw his mother crawl on the ground and thought he was going to lose her at 6 years old, and watched my mother beaten over and over again. You would think she would say, you know what, that's good, but she's back to demonizing everyone. And Senator, let me tell you this. I've made mistakes in my life and I've owned them, but I've never claimed to be someone or something I'm not.
Mr.
Can you
Deaton,
say
that's
the
time.
same?
Senator
Can you
Warren
say the same?
Gets the final 30 seconds here.
So let's be clear here. This arrest at a kid's football game, when he told the police officer just how much he thought the police officer was worth, is not something that happened back in John Deaton's youth. It happened just not too long ago, living in Rhode Island. And what he did after he did this with the police arrested him and prosecuted him. He turned around and sued the police, and he lost that lawsuit. That's the part John Deaton doesn't. That's the part John Deaton does not want you to see. He is not someone we can trust.
Senator Warren, that's time.
I have to.
And we're going to move on.
I need to address that. Give me 10 seconds. 10 seconds. That is what Senator Warren said is not true. It's not true.
Is that what
the case is still
Mr. Deaton, that's enough. Mr. Deaton, we need to move on. We have a lot to get to. I understand where you're coming from, but we have to go to the next question, which is for Senator Warren. During an earlier debate this week, your challenger said that you were partially responsible for 2 hospitals, Kearney Hospital and the Neshoba Valley Medical Center, closing. 2 questions. How do you respond to these accusations, and what role did you play in trying to keep these medical facilities open specifically?
So understand why these hospitals closed. They closed because private equity came in and sucked $1 billion in value out of these, what originally had been not-for-profit hospitals. Think about how our nurses, what they could have done if that $1 billion had been reinvested in those hospitals. But they didn't. They took all of that out of the hospitals and basically used it to buy yachts and airplanes. Look, I am fighting to make sure that private equity does not eat out more of our healthcare system. Mr. Deaton's complaint is that I don't think we ought to have one more giant company come in and buy up our hospitals. We need to get this profit motive out of our healthcare system. And it's true for our hospitals. It is true for our pharmacies. It is true for our doctors' practices. It is true for our nurses, people who are trying to provide care. And keep in mind, if we end up with Republican control of the United States Senate, these are people who have tried over and over and over to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Donald Trump says he's coming for it again. That will cost Massachusetts billions of dollars and result in more hospital closures here. We need to support our healthcare system, not tear it apart the way Mr. Deaton and the extremist Republicans want to do.
Mr. Deaton, you have 90 seconds. I'd like to ask you, what could or should the senator have done in this instance to keep these 2 hospitals open?
The first thing she should have done is stayed out of it, because listen, there was a deal on the table. United Healthcare was going to buy the hospitals. She objected to it immediately, just to object, and we lost Kearney and we lost Neshoba. Now pregnant women in central Massachusetts have to go 40 minutes to drive to give a birth because she wanted to fit her brand of going against companies. Just like when Amazon was going to buy iRobot, Senator Warren objected to it and said, I object, and hundreds of people lost jobs. She talks about trust. I hope that Senator Warren, she talks about trust, yet she's proven to be corrupt in Washington. Senator, are you going to address the fact that she sits on the banking committee and Gary Gensler, who she's supposed to oversee and keep responsible, hold him accountable, she gave him not only the questions, but the answers to what she was going to say. She said, here, I'm going to ask you these questions under oath, and I want you to give these answers, okay? And then he did it. And then Senator Warren gets on TV and says, don't take my word for it. Gary Gensler said it. When she's the one that told him. That is corruption to its core. And Senator Warren's guilty. I prosecuted as a federal prosecutor under 18 U.S.C. 1622 suborning perjury cases. And I could convict Senator Warren like that on this. And I hope she addresses that, because, Senator, you were a law professor. And I'm going to ask you, when you give the student the exam and the answers and then give that student an A, would that professor get fired?
Your minute, Senator.
So let's start with healthcare, where this question started.
You're not going to deal with Gary Gensler?
Let's start with healthcare, where this started.
Exactly.
And that is that twice now, my opponent has alleged that United Health had offered to buy the hospitals. Those are not the facts. They offered to buy up the doctor's practice. The hospitals were out there loose on their own. Go back and check the facts. But here's the deal. Listen to what he says each time. What is the solution to the fact that our hospitals have been hollowed out by private equity? Bring in the 9th largest corporation in the world to just buy them up and squeeze more profits out of healthcare here in Massachusetts. What is the answer to every problem for Mr. Deaton? And that is bring in more people who can squeeze out more profits. He wants to talk about corruption. Let's use the 80, 90, 100 rule. 80% of Mr. Deaton's wealth is tied up in crypto. 90% of his funding for this campaign is coming from crypto.
Senator, that's
and
time.
100%
Senator,
of his
that's
loyalty in Washington
Mr. Deaton, you
will
have 30
be
seconds to
crypto.
respond.
That is corruption.
Senator, thank you.
It's just starting out. Yeah, listen, you notice that she didn't even mention, I called her corrupt, and she wouldn't even address it. She won't address it. She won't address the Epstein stuff either. She just wants to kick it under the carpet and pretend that it didn't happen. Senator, I can tell you this. I come from extreme poverty. I made all my money that I've made. I made it before I went to Washington. What people are sick of are people like you going to Washington, D.C. broke and then coming back 10 years later and being multi-millionaires. And so I don't think you should ever condemn anyone in the private sector who came from poverty and food stamps to make it be successful. And when you say I didn't donate, Senator, I sued the SEC. I won a Lawyer of the Year award,
Mr. Deaton,
Consumer Advocate of the Year, Freedom of Defender award, because I did all that work pro bono. That's called pro bono work.
Wait,
something you didn't.
Senator, Mr. Deaton, we need to move on.
Crypto? Are you kidding me that
holders,
counts as a
small-time
charitable contribution?
investors that you abandoned,
Senator Warren, Mr. Deaton, we need to move along here. Staying on the issue of health care, Mr. Deaton, this goes to you. You have said you are the pro-choice candidate in this race, and you told our GBH colleague Katie Lannon in a recent interview that putting a bill on the floor that codifies Roe v. Wade would be a top priority for you if you were elected. You have also said, though, that you don't support late-term abortions, and that is part of the ongoing debate about what a federal abortions rights bill should and should not include, along with questions about fetal viability and religious objections for healthcare workers who don't want to be involved in abortions. Can you please describe what specific provisions you would include in a federal bill to codify Roe v. Wade that your Republican colleagues would vote for?
Well, I can't tell you whether the Republican Party colleagues would vote for it, but I can tell you what John Deaton would do, something that Elizabeth Warren hasn't done. She talks about it, but she doesn't do it. And what I would do is I'd look to Massachusetts. Massachusetts actually got this right, which gives a woman a right up to 22 weeks to have unrestricted access to abortion. After that period of time, she's not allowed unless it's for her health reasons or there's a fetal anomaly. And we're talking about the viability issue around that time. And so that's what I support. But listen, there are 6 people who are responsible for the overturning of Roe. Donald Trump, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, Neil Gorsuch, Harry Reid, and Senator Elizabeth Warren. And right now I'm going to have my campaign staff, I want you to post the 2013 media advisory by Elizabeth Warren where she bragged that she was going to push Harry Reid to get rid of the filibuster, even though they were told that Republicans would then use it for the Supreme Court. So you understand, everyone out there, that her fingerprints are all over this Roe decision. The Supreme Court would not look the way it does today if Senator Warren would have honored the fact that in the Senate, it takes hard work. The filibuster rule was in place for over 100 years, and it required compromise. But Senator Warren wanted to say, nope, I got 51. And by the way, she says she's going to codify Roe. You have 51 votes now in the Senate, Senator, so I would encourage you to do it. I'll help you write it if you want me to.
Mr. Deaton, that's time. Senator Warren, your response.
So this comes down to a question of trust. Can you really trust John Deaton? When he was asked who would he vote for Supreme Court, you know who he named? Gorsuch, one of the people who turned over Roe versus Wade, who vetoed Roe versus Wade, who got rid of Roe versus Wade. And what did we know about Neil Gorsuch at the time the vote came up? Well, we knew that as a lower court judge, he'd done the Hobby Lobby opinion, which had restricted access to contraception. We knew that he had come from a list that had been pre-screened as people who would be anti-abortion. And we knew that 50 groups that support access to abortion had opposed Neil Gorsuch. And yet, John Deaton says, you know, if I'd had that information, I would have voted for him. And now John Deaton gives us the big defense of the filibuster that keeps us from making Roe versus Wade law of the land. That's the problem. We can't pass it with 52 votes because the Republicans filibuster us. So here's the deal. If Republicans are in control of the Senate, there will be no bill to make Roe versus Wade law of the land. It doesn't matter whether we have 50 votes for it or 51 or 52. With Republican control of the Senate, we will have no bill to codify Roe versus Wade. And that means when they're coming for us in Massachusetts, we have no defense.
Senator, thank you.
That's time. Right? I get 30 seconds, right, on this one, based on the format. Listen, on June 22nd, 1 minute, thank you. In June of 2022, that's when the Dobbs decision came down. Joe Biden was president. They had the House, the Democrats had the House, and they had the Senate. They could have codified it, but Senator Warren didn't do that. She didn't go to the floor and say, I demand that every United States senator take a stand right now. You want to know why? Because they wanted it. Just like Donald Trump wanted immigration as an issue, they wanted it as an election issue for the midterms. And they didn't want to upset maybe Joe Manchin in West Virginia. John Deaton doesn't, I believe in term limits, so I don't subscribe to sitting back trying to maneuver how we can have control this day or that day, or I don't care if there's a senator in West Virginia, a Republican or a Democrat. I don't care about them. I care about Massachusetts. And so John Deaton was in the Senate. As a Republican, I would have stood up and I would have demanded every United States senator take a stand now. That's what advocacy is, not what Senator Warren's talking about.
So Senator Warren, Mr. Deaton needs to recheck his facts. We have voted on Roe versus Wade. And I stood up and said we should vote on this. And the problem we have is because the Republicans filibustered it, we could not get to 60 votes. Yes, we put everyone on record, Democrats and Republicans, on where you are on Roe versus Wade. Mr. Deaton is just wrong. He just doesn't know what's happened here. But listen to him. When he defends the filibuster, what he's doing is saying, don't get anything done in the United States.
Senator Warren, that's time.
The filibuster.
Mr. Deaton, that's time. We're moving on.
We are going to stay with the court, though, for a moment. The two of you had radically different reactions to a pair of decisions that were handed down this past year. The Chevron doctrine was overturned by the court. It had granted broad authority to regulatory agencies for decades, and the court found that presidents have absolute criminal immunity when it comes to exercising their core powers. Senator Warren, I'd like to start with you and then go to Mr. Deaton. Why do you think these two rulings are so dangerous?
Well, they're dangerous for two reasons. One is that we don't need a dictator in this country. We don't want a dictator. Shoot, we founded this country because we didn't want a king. And yet this extremist Supreme Court has said that Donald Trump can do whatever he wants to do, and as long as he's president, they're not going to interfere, and the law can't interfere. We have a central principle in the United States, and that is no one is above the law. The Chevron doctrine, a little bit down in the weeds here, but the basic notion is that our agencies need to be able to do their work. So, for example, the Environmental Protection Agency needs to be able to set clean air standards. The Department of Education needs to set standards to make sure that our special needs kids are getting the services and help that they need. That's true throughout government. Department of Transportation does landing slots. And yet, what the Chevron doctrine used to do is it said that the courts have to defer. Maybe Congress didn't write down that the parts per million on how much mercury can be in air has to be 0.0003. We left it up to the agency. And what this Supreme Court is doing is they're saying, no, we don't want those agencies to function. We want to grind government to a halt and put all of the power with judges. We can't run our country that way. It will hurt us all.
Mr. Deaton, you cheered Chevron's reversal, and you said, I believe, that the reaction to the immunity ruling was premature, that we should wait and see how things played out. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, listen, remember when I noticed the agency that Senator Warren didn't bring up was the Securities Exchange Commission. Earlier, I just said that I literally looked her in the face and respectfully said that she's corrupt, right? And this proves it. She had Gary Gensler, who oversees the Securities Exchange Commission, the chairman. She's supposed to hold him accountable. So what she did is, because she had a specific agenda in mind, she said, and this is proven by FOIA request, that here are my questions I'm going to ask you to an upcoming hearing under oath, and here's what I want you to say. And then she asked those exact questions, and he gave those exact answers, and they're not truthful. Then Senator Warren goes on CNBC and other stations and says, hey, don't take my word for it. Take the word of the regulator, the expert, who's Gary Gensler, who taught at MIT. They were her words. She told him what to say. And Chevron ended that. It ended the regulatory capture from senators that are like Senator Warren, who don't care about the truth, but only care about a specific agenda. I said, as a special assistant United States attorney in the District of Arizona, I prosecuted people under the suborning perjury statutes when you encourage someone to not tell the truth in an official proceeding. She is absolutely guilty of that. And it may seem harsh for me to say it, but it's the truth. And she didn't even respond to it. Maybe now she'll explain to America why that's not corruption.
Senator Warren, you got a minute, and then we go back to you, Mr. Deaton, for a minute.
So, Mr. Deaton is just spinning this whole fantasy story. Look, my responsibility is oversight, and I want to make sure that we cover the issues that we need to cover. Nobody said anything that was untruthful, and Mr. Deaton has no evidence of that. But understand this, there's a reason that Mr. Deaton is very, very, very focused on the SEC. And the reason for that is the only agency that seems to have a little wedge on regulating crypto and has held these crypto multi-billionaires accountable when they go out and make wild claims about investments and how it's a great investment to buy crypto. Gary Gensler has been pushing back on that. We need regulations covering crypto. But when we've got the guy who follows the 80-90-100 rule, 80% of his value in crypto, 90% of his funding from crypto, and 100% of his loyalty to crypto, it means that we're not going to have somebody who's going to support the SEC in trying to do their job.
Senator Warren, we have to leave your remarks there. Mr. Deaton, one more minute.
Yes, listen, I sued the United States government because they hurt small-time investors. And you want to know, it went viral. 75,000 individual token holders, not billionaires, people that have $5,000 invested, okay, $2,000 invested. They joined me. 627 of them here live in Massachusetts. And we sued the SEC, and I said that XRP token was legal. The SEC said it wasn't. And Judge Annalisa Torres, who was appointed by Barack Obama, agreed with me, cited my work, cited the affidavits that I submitted to the court, and ruled in my favor and said Deaton is right, basically, and it gave relief to these individual token holders. Now, she keeps talking about crypto billionaires. Senator Vice President Harris was just donated over 1 million XRP tokens by a crypto billionaire that supports me. So I'm going to ask you, what do the crypto people expect from Vice President Harris that they don't expect from me? That's what I'd like.
That is time.
May I answer that? He asked me a question.
Very, very quickly, 15 seconds, and then 15 seconds to Mr. Deaton, and we're done.
I think it's a problem when any candidate receives 90% of the funding from their campaign from one industry, whether it's the crypto industry, the oil industry, the pharmaceutical industry. So far as I know, Mr. Deaton is now the all-time champion for having gotten the most funding from one.
15 seconds, then we really have to move on.
Is absolutely lying. A super PAC. Senator Warren, I have $2 million. $105 is the average donation. I put $1 million of my own money in this race. She's talking about crypto billionaires or somebody who did a fund that's about her. She wanted to ban an industry, and so they
have to move on from this. We could go on for a while. Adam has the next question on a different topic.
Thank you, Adam. I have another question for both of you, and this is part of our Connecting the Commonwealth initiative.
XRP
and this
again.
question comes from our sister station CAI on the Cape and Islands. Massachusetts recently committed New England's largest ever purchase of offshore wind power. At the same time, fishing groups and local communities have raised some concerns about impacts to our oceans and our coastlines. You'll both get an opportunity in this. Mr. Deaton, I'm going to start with you for 90 seconds. Two-part question. Where do you stand on the push to create an offshore wind economy, which has received significant federal funding over the last 4 years? And would you support the pause on offshore wind development demanded by opponents?
Yes, listen, this is a problem where people rush without actually thinking about how to do something. This comes down to where Senator Warren's wrong. She thinks the government is the answer to every solution, when I believe the government is usually the problem. And here's an example. They've created so many regulations that commercial fishermen here in Massachusetts have basically been bankrupt and put out of business. They literally, the Chevron decision that was talked about earlier dealt with the fishermen because the government, people like Senator Warren said, hey, we're going to send someone on your boat and they're going to count how many fish you catch and you're going to have to pay for it out of your own earnings even though you're trying to support your family. That's insanity. And that's not how you approach things. And so we have to have renewable energy, in my opinion, has to be focused in the right areas. For example, I brought up Western Mass. I believe Western Mass is the prime place where we could establish renewable energy and revitalize this economy in the state. And that includes wind, that includes solar, that includes hydro, and like I said, it includes a limited amount of nuclear. And so I do support a pause at this point in time because it's just like when the government said, here's $7.5 billion to build EV charging stations. After 3 years, they didn't have one online, and they've only got 7 right now, and it's $7.5 billion. In the meantime, Tesla in 1 quarter built 359 of them. So of course the private sector's better.
Senator, you have 90 seconds.
So we need to listen to our fishermen. We also need to listen to our native nations about who are affected by offshore wind and offshore wind development. I think it's important that people be compensated. I think it's important that they be fully consulted. But I do not support leaning back on offshore wind. We are in a climate crisis, and offshore wind is one of the ways we're going to work our way out of that. Go down to New Bedford, go out to the Cape and see the development that's coming from this. Look, this is a big difference between Democrats and Republicans. We don't have somebody here who says he's a climate denier, but he just doesn't want any of the things it's going to take to move us to a clean energy economy. I am very proud of the fact that I helped pass the biggest climate package in the history of the world, and it was paid for by my 15% minimum tax on billionaire corporations that were paying little or nothing, corporations like Amazon. And that has resulted already, you can see it out here in Western Mass, 25 new electric school buses already that we have here. The resilience that we're building right now. This is a part of how we build a clean future. And understand this, I'm proud of what we've done, but it isn't nearly enough. We need to double down on our investments in climate again and again.
Mr. Deaton, you have 1 minute to rebut.
Listen, Senator Warren does nothing but engage in class warfare. You notice that she keeps talking about billionaires. For example, she supported 87,000 IRS agents, and what was her answer? It's for the billionaires. Well, let's talk about something she doesn't like to, which are facts. There's 735 billionaires living in America. They have a cumulative wealth of $4.5 trillion. So Senator Warren, instead of just taxing them more, let's just take all their money for a second for this conversation. That $4.5 trillion that we take from them, you know what we could do with it? We could pay our interest alone for 4 years on the national debt. Not a dollar goes to education. Not a dollar goes to the climate change. Not a dollar goes to immigration reform. Not a dollar goes to anything. It just goes to interest. And so her slogan of tax the rich on everything is that's just a slogan. And by the way, the 87,000 IRS agents, if it was for the billionaires, we'd only need 735 of them, and they could be assigned to each billionaire all year long.
Thank you, Mr. Deaton. That's time. Senator, you have the final minute.
So understand this. The IRS agents he's talking about are the people who are hired to do enforcement against tax cheats who make more than $400,000 a year. And it is an incredibly successful program. In fact, for every dollar invested, we're getting somewhere between $6 and $10 back in revenues from people who just don't even follow the current law because they know under the Republican regime that the IRS doesn't have the manpower to come after them. Look, John Deaton stands here and tells you who he is. He wants to defend the billionaires, and that makes sense. It's the billionaires who are funding his campaign.
It's not
90% of the money that is moving this campaign forward comes from the crypto industry. And the crypto billionaires are going to expect a big return on their investment if John Deaton can take this Senate seat.
Thank you, Senator. We have a little bit more to get in before we run out of time tonight.
Question for both of you involving political ambition. Senator Warren, if Kamala Harris is successful in her presidential run, would you consider serving in her administration? And if she is not, would you consider running for president again yourself in 2028?
No and no. I am asking the people of Massachusetts to elect me for a 6-year term, and it's the 6-year term here in Massachusetts that I want to serve. And the reason for that is because I have work that I'm doing for the people of Massachusetts, and this is my opportunity to get more of it done. You know, I got the endorsement from the Berkshire Eagle. Thank you very much. I sit on the Senate Armed Services Committee, and we lost our own Jake Gallagher. And I am working hard to hold the Department of Defense accountable for these ospreys so that other young people don't lose their lives. I've gotten $500 million into our local military installations, mostly in western and central Massachusetts. I brought home more than $20 billion, and it has touched every single community here in western Massachusetts. We've gotten broadband. We've been able to support Soldier On for homeless vets up in Pittsfield, to support the Latino Business Development Group right here in Springfield that supports these young, getting started businesses. I've also been in the fight for climate, which is so important here. You know, I stood in Deerfield in the mud and the muck watching the latest flooding, and I hope everyone's sitting down because I actually work now with Ted
Senator
Cruz
Warren, I'm afraid
to
I
get
have
the
to
rules changed so
stop
that
you right
well, let me
there.
at least explain. So that
No, I'm
FEMA,
afraid I got to move on to
so
Mr.
that
Deaton.
FEMA
People
can
read about
actually offer disaster
your collaboration with
relief for these
Senator
folks.
Cruz. John Deaton, you have never held elected office before. Why are you starting off with a run for U.S. Senate as opposed to, say, running for a job in the state legislature or even the Bolton Select Board?
Because we're in crisis. We have illegal immigration bankrupting the state. We have an opioid addiction killing Americans. We have a debt crisis. The government's going over a cliff. No one's talking about it. And we have inflation that's pricing Americans out of the economy. But the single greatest crisis we face is a crisis of leadership. You have people like Senator Warren, so divisive, they sit back and they fuel the division amongst us, and that has to change. You know, Senator Warren was asked a question about why is Trump so popular? Why is this race close? You know what she said? She threw her hands up in disgust and said, I just don't get it. I think it's your job, Senator, to get it, because 74 million Americans aren't racist and xenophobes. These are good people who think the country's headed in the wrong direction. And I realize, because I don't support President Trump, that maybe I'm the right messenger for these elites to get them to understand. So here you go. First, every member of Congress, take a look in the mirror, because you're part of the problem. And maybe people are tired of foreign wars. Maybe they're tired of working 50 hours a week and can't pay their bills, or being shocked at the grocery store when they get their energy bill, or that their parks are becoming crime scenes. Or maybe they feel betrayed, Senator, that they watch billions of dollars be spent on migrants who just got here, but We can't save Neshoba. We can't save Kearney. We don't have any for wildfires, and we don't have any for hurricane victims. Maybe they're in disbelief that in today's America, it seems far better to be an illegal migrant than a homeowner in North Carolina who's been here all your life.
Senator
Maybe
Warren,
now you get it, Senator.
30 seconds to rebut.
Look, you just heard John Deaton say he doesn't support Trump. And yet, less than a year ago, when he still lived in Rhode Island, he actually posted online that he would vote for Donald Trump over Joe Biden. He has said that he likes Donald Trump's foreign policy better than he likes Joe Biden's. He has said
drop out of the race
You'll have
today.
30 seconds in a moment, John.
Can I have my time?
Please.
We're claiming my time here. He has said that he likes Donald Trump's foreign policy better than he likes Joe Biden's. He has said that he likes Donald Trump's economic policy better than he likes Joe Biden's. And what is he now wants to come in front of the people of Massachusetts and just tell a different story.
Okay, 30 seconds to you, Mr. Deaton, to rebut, then we'll move on.
Senator Warren just looked you all in the face and lied through her teeth, just like she lied about her heritage, just like how she lied how she got into Harvard. She just now lied to you. I have been the biggest critic of Donald Trump than anyone. Go on my X account and search in Trump. It was published in the Boston Herald of all the things I've said, like you might be the worst human being alive and all of these things. Yet Senator Warren looks you in the face and just makes bold-faced lies. That's why I'm running to answer your question, to replace people like Senator Warren who don't have a commitment to the truth.
Okay, let's leave that exchange there. We are near the end of the debate, and we're going to shift up the format a little bit, increase the pace, do a lightning round. I'd love quick answers from each of you on the same questions. Starting with you, Senator Warren, other than Springfield, what is your favorite spot in Western Massachusetts?
Jacob's Pillow.
John Deaton?
Pittsfield, because I think of my clients that I've represented that worked at the GE plant in Pittsfield that had mesothelioma, and I took on General Electric and got victims compensated. Pittsfield.
Okay, I'm going to stay with you for a second.
Sure.
Name a political role model who is currently in office.
Currently in office, I like Amy Klobuchar, for example, because she's a moderate. By the way,
Senator from Minnesota.
Yeah,
okay.
I think she's a moderate.
Senator Warren, political role model currently in office.
You know, I give a lot of credit to President Zelensky, who has been on the front lines for 3 years.
Give him a lot of money, too.
No crosstalk is allowed in this. President Zelensky is your selection.
That's
Thank
right.
you,
Someone
Senator
who's on
Warren.
the front lines fighting for democracy.
Ballot question 4 in Massachusetts would legalize the use of some psychedelics. Senator Warren, do you support question 4?
Yes, but I want to say it's going to take a period to get into it, and we got to get the right regulations in place to make sure people are safe.
John Deaton, how about you?
That last question, I'd go with Nayib Bukele from El Salvador instead of Zelensky. But as relates to this, no, I vote no, because we got to deal with our opiate problem, with the fentanyl that's coming across this country, and they're pushing it too far, too fast. And so I'm a no on it.
You're a no on psychedelics.
Except for medical purposes by a doctor.
All right, both of you, like me, are transplants from elsewhere. What is one thing you really didn't appreciate about Massachusetts until you lived here? John Deaton, you first.
That I didn't appreciate?
That you did not fully appreciate until you actually lived here.
The seafood.
The seafood.
Because I worked at Legal Seafood for 3 years.
Senator Warren.
Oh, how beautiful the trees are in the fall. I grew up in a part of the world that doesn't have a lot of trees. And Massachusetts, especially out in the Berkshires, is truly magical.
All right, I think final question for both of you. Senator Warren, what kind of candy are you going to be giving out for Halloween?
Mounds and some Almond Joy, if we can find it. Sometimes it's hard to find.
All right, John Deaton?
Reese Cups, unless I eat them all.
I was wrong. We have 30 seconds left, so I'll throw one more at you. If you don't win this race, what's your consolation meal going to be, John Deaton?
Probably chicken nuggets with my daughter Layla. This campaign has taken me away from her. Hi, honey.
Okay, Senator Warren, your consolation dinner?
It's probably going to be something at Frank's with French fries on the side. It's a great place in Cambridge. Try it out.
There it is. You can tell my mind is on food. It's getting late. That is going to close our debate. We want to thank the candidates, Senator Elizabeth Warren and John Deaton, for participating in this NEPM and GBH news debate. And thanks as well to our audience. Election Day is November 5th. Make sure you vote. Good night.
All right, there we are. Well, I mean, I think that was a pretty obvious, clear win for Deaton again. I thought he did really good at the end there, especially just wrapping up a lot of his points. I think he summarized them really well. We also passed Rector, which is awesome. 300 votes. He had about a half an hour head start on me, so love to see that. Yeah, that panel was definitely leaning towards Warren a lot more, but I still think they were like pretty fair in comparison to what I was expecting. So I think John executed really well. The Zelensky part at the end was insane. To say your favorite politician is Zelensky is like probably one of the most out of touch things you can say. I mean, it's Ukrainian dictator, but that was bizarre. I don't know why she would ever say that. That was probably her worst moment. I think the toughest moment for Deaton was on that football story thing. I think he could have done a little better there, but it was early in the debate, so I'm sure that's not going to make a huge difference here. I think the most important thing is like people are either, Stuart Alderati tweeted, I think the most important thing here is people are either going to see the blatant corruption and be so unhappy with where Massachusetts is that they're going to request a change, or they're just going to keep voting themselves through the status quo. So I don't know what that looks like, but I think based off that performance, John Deaton has done everything he needs to do to beat her. You could also tell she was much more prepared. For that second debate. I think she definitely had to go back and try to find some dirt on Deaton, because the first debate she was really, really far behind on a lot of that stuff. She didn't know Deaton very well, and she kind of got smoked on all those issues. I think she definitely went back to the drawing board there and tried to find something she could use. Stuart Alderati just tweeted as well. He said, no surprises here. Once again, it made it clear the court's ruling that XRP is not a security is not being appealed. The decision stands in law. Stay tuned for Ripple's Form C, should be filed next week. Okay, cool. So Stuart Alderati is confirming that that XRP is not a security. That was not appealed by the SEC. So that's a pretty big win here. I was a little worried the SEC would try to rehash that. They clearly decided not to, which is a very good sign. So it really just makes it down to what Ripple's activities are. So, I mean, when it comes to XRP holders, I mean, we're out of the case. We're literally out of the case. XRP is not a security. And the one thing kind of standing here is just on what Ripple does with XRP. That's where the SEC is choosing to put their resources in. I don't think that's as big of an issue as if they were trying to go over after XRP again. I wanted to find this Solana thing again. I can't seem to find it on my phone. There's something happening with Solana earlier. Solana is down. DEX volume sliding from 2 billion to 1.6 billion. Oh. Yeah, it's not like actually down. It just means the price is okay. That was more of a FUD article than anything else. Sense. XRP out of the case? Absolutely. Yep. Did you look at Hogan's tweet? Let me take a look at I saw Hogan blasting off a couple tweets during the debate. Let me see what Hogan said. Hogan says, I've never been so excited to get Form C since I was in get a C since I was in high school in math. What is not being appealed is that XRP is not a security. What is being appealed is Ripple's sales of XRP on exchanges and the use of XRP to as a kind of payment, and the use of XRP as a kind of payment. Oh, for like the employees and executives. What does de novo mean? It means that the appellate court is ruling on a per issue of law and doesn't have to defer to the trial court on the law issues. What? Okay. So I'm not sure if I know entirely what that means. What does de novo mean? It means that the appellate court is ruling on a per issue of law and doesn't have to defer to the trial court on the law issue. So I think that just means this entire thing is summary judgment, which is definitely good. That means we don't have to worry about this thing going to like any kind of trial. What I like, the appeal is about money. The injunction could change if Ripple was to lose, but only indirectly, as to order compliance. Not entirely sure if I know what that means, but it sounds like mostly the SEC is just trying to get more money, and it's a lot less worried about actually changing any behavior. He said, oh yeah, I also like that the SEC is not appealing the ruling that the SEC isn't entitled to disgorgement. I'm shocked the SEC didn't appeal that. That seems like a mistake to them. Who knows? Maybe they'll file a new thing tomorrow saying that we are appealing that. Other than that, the whole thing sucks. It's a bad appeal. So Jeremy Hogan doesn't seem to think this is a very good appeal. Let me take a look real quick and see if he's saying anything else. So Jeremy Hogan says XRP can never be a stock like IBM. Jeremy Hogan says that it's good for XRP. It could have been a lot worse. Jeremy Hogan said the SEC might get away with the late filing. In terms of it being late, he said, I don't know. I thought the clerk might dismiss the appeal sui sponte since they were late, but apparently that's not how it works. I've never done a federal appeal before, so I don't know the nitty gritty. Okay, so he just doesn't know about this actually being dismissed for being late. He said it's only about money. Interesting. So Jeremy Hogan thinks it's all about money. He said, I would give Ripple 9 out of 10 odds, which are solid. Okay, I don't understand how odds work, but I'd say Ripple has a 90% chance of winning at least one issue and an 80% chance of winning both major issues. So he doesn't think the SEC really stands a chance here. Okay, that's all pretty positive news. Let me just check Metal Law Man here real quick. See if he's got anything. Nothing in particular yet on there. Trying to think of anything else. Sherry, we can check out Sherry. Sherry might have something interesting here. Check out Sherry. Sherry says the court would decide on it being dismissed, but she said don't bank on it. Sherry also says that the SEC can't bring in any new evidence. So the evidence in this case is over, which is bad for the SEC because the evidence was bad to start. So the SEC doesn't have any new evidence. Okay. That seems to be everything. Guys, thank you so much for coming. Another great debate by John Deaton. I thought he killed it. Super proud of him. I should have a recap on the new decisions in the Ripple SEC case, maybe at some point tomorrow. I want to give all the lawyers some time to weigh in on this before we get into the nitty gritty and really take a look at what we're dealing with. But it seems like Jeremy Hogan's saying that this is a bad appeal. He thinks it's all about money. I think if it really is all about money, that thus increases the chance we could see